Police across the GTA prepare safety measures ahead of the anniversary of the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel coming on Monday.
Good afternoon. The police presence will be stepped up and several command centers set up across the GTA.
It's all part of plans to make sure communities feel safe ahead of a tension-filled and painful milestone. CTV's John Musselman is live in Thornhill with more. John.
Well, Michelle, here's one of the command centers right behind me. We're in Vaughan, where the mayor says this is all about easing anxiety. It's also a precautionary measure. The command post has been set up in the parking lot of the Promenade Mall near Bathurst and Clark Avenue. Police say this is a precautionary measure as we approach 1 year since the October 7th Hamas attack against Israel. Vaughan Mayor Stephen Duca toured the mobile command center this morning.
There are two other locations for the roving mobile command post in Vaughan. One is at the Jafari Community Center, and the other is at the Longo's parking lot at Jane and Major Mackenzie Drive. So to know that the mobile command posts plus additional patrols, additional officers who will be out in the community both in their vehicles and on foot, that increased visibility I think will go a long way to helping ease some of the anxiety and the angst that we know many in our community have been feeling for the past 12 months, and in particular with tensions that are heightening right now in the Middle East.
We want to reiterate that we are here to make sure that everyone is feeling safe and secure and that all the members of our community feel heard. Similarly, we want to reiterate that we will tolerate absolutely no hate crime or any hate bias incident. We want these reported to us and they will be investigated fully. So starting on October 2nd, we began to have increased patrols.
Toronto residents will also notice an increased police presence across the city as we approach October 7th. 3 mobile command posts will be stationed in Jewish neighborhoods, including Bathurst and Shepherd and Bathurst and Finch. A 4th mobile command post will be deployed to various mosques across the city.
And we'll be responsive to the situation on the ground every single day. And again, you know, we will take all the steps necessary, and we'll be there as long as necessary to make sure people feel safe.
Toronto police recently released statistics showing hate crimes have risen in the city, particularly targeting the Jewish community. Back here in Vaughan, York Regional Police say zero tolerance for any hate crimes. If anybody witnesses or experiences it, they can come to a command center like this and report it. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. Meanwhile, we're learning more about the man accused of shooting a police officer earlier this week.
That officer has since been released from hospital and continues to recover from a gunshot wound to the abdomen. CTV's Mike Walker is live outside the courthouse to bring us more on the accused man. Mike.
Nathan, Michelle, we are still waiting for Tibor Organa to make his appearance in court today. We have learned that he was out on bail at the time of this shooting and has been previously charged in separate incidents by police forces in other jurisdictions. This is video from the York Regional Police helicopter this past May showing officers track down suspects wanted for break-and-enters in King Township. Organa was among 3 suspects arrested and charged with a slew of offenses for breaking into homes as well as possession of a stolen vehicle and license plates. He was granted bail and just 4 months later was charged with attempted murder in connection with shooting a Toronto police officer on Wednesday who was conducting a robbery investigation in the Yonge and Eglinton area. Court documents also reveal from a separate incident in Fort Francis that in 2022, Organa was prohibited from possessing weapons and ammunition. In this latest incident involving the shooting of a police officer, Organa is facing more than a dozen charges for weapons offenses, robbery, and breaching probation orders. Chief Myron Demke spoke about the matter. Here's more.
I think this speaks to the broader issue that we hear of time and again, which is a bail system that, you know, we are seeing repeat violent offenders that are out on the streets and cause harm who are out on bail. And I think we need to continue our efforts to find a legislative framework that meets the expectations of Canadians. And I think Canadians speak time and again. They speak about concerns that they feel around the justice system and elements of the bail system and how things unfold. And I think we have to have a real conversation.
The police chief also added that the 29-year-old officer who was shot in the abdomen has now been released from hospital. He visited 53 Division to meet with some of his colleagues before heading home, where he is now recovering from his injuries. Again, we're expecting Tibor Organa, the man charged with attempted murder in the shooting, to appear in court today. None of the charges against him have been proven in court. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. And as the investigation continues here in Toronto, the opposition in Ottawa pointed to the shooting while urging changes to federal bail laws.
We see the case of the dirtbag Tibor Organa, who shot a police officer in the stomach yesterday while he was out on bail after having been arrested for 24 offenses he committed while he was out on probation. So let's get this straight. He's out on probation for many crimes. He gets arrested for violating probation, so he gets released on bail and shoots a police officer. When will this government finally accept that their hug-a-thug, catch-a-release system is putting our people at risk?
Premier Doug Ford weighed in, saying the guy accused in this shooting should never have been out on bail. Enough is enough. The federal government needs to do its job and fix our broken bail system so we can keep dangerous criminals behind bars and off our streets. The federal justice minister had this to say.
In terms of decisions that are made about bail, these are important considerations. They're considerations where we've made amendments to the bail regime. What happens after amendments are made at the federal parliament is that the ball turns over to the provinces. We need to ask genuine questions about who's making decisions about granting or denying bail. Provincially appointed JPs. About provincial crowns who are making decisions about whether to review bail and what kind of conditions to impose. Those are questions that need to be asked.
The government House leader said no police officer should be hurt in the line of duty, but accused the Conservative leader of seeking to trample on charter rights in his push for bail reforms.
Durham Regional Police have identified the victims of a homicide in Curtis this week. 30-year-old Katrina Zwolinski and her mother, 67-year-old Lori Crew, were found dead inside a home near Curtis Road and Highway 2 on Tuesday. Zwolinski's infant son was found uninjured in the home, and a 33-year-old man was arrested. Michael Bellew is described as Zwolinski's boyfriend and father of that child, is facing 2 counts of second-degree murder.
Police are investigating a shooting in the Davenport and Old Weston Road area. Officers found 1 victim after responding to Osler Street and Pelham Avenue for reports of a shooting after 6 last night. Paramedics say a man was taken to hospital with minor injuries. There's no suspect information as police appeal for information.
A 13-year-old boy has been charged with first-degree murder in a deadly stabbing outside a plaza early Tuesday morning. This happened outside a restaurant at the plaza at St. Clair Avenue and Jane Street just before 12:30 a.m. Paramedics arrived to find a 54-year-old man seriously injured, and despite life-saving efforts, he was pronounced dead at the scene. His identity has not been released as police still work to notify next of kin. The 13-year-old murder suspect was scheduled to appear in court this morning.
A man wanted in a fatal stabbing in Scarborough last month has surrendered to police. Investigators say 29-year-old Nelson Luong of Markham turned himself in yesterday. He was charged with first-degree murder. The incident happened September 28th at a housing complex near Brimley and Finch. The victim, a 51-year-old man, died at the scene. 2 other suspects were arrested earlier this week and are also facing first-degree murder charges in the stabbing.
Crews are still on the scene of a fire in Vaughan, watching out for hot spots. This broke out at a home on Tennant Circle near Major Mackenzie and Weston Road shortly after 5 this morning. The home, you can see, heavily damaged, the roof completely gone. Fortunately, no injuries have been reported.
Now, this viewer video shows just how intense the fire was, and you can see the whole house engulfed. It's now under control, and the cause is under investigation.
Still to come on CTV News at noon, the changing landscape of Ontario Place as crews clear trees to make way for redevelopment. Details emerge about the deal struck by the province to build a spa on the property.
And we have more news in a moment, but first a look outside at the weather. We got a cooler start to the day, but some sunny skies are out there, and you can still get away with wearing shorts. Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current conditions. Jess.
I saw a few brave souls out there rocking the shorts and the t-shirts early on. You know what? It was a little fresher start, but it's nice out there. A northerly flow to the wind will keep the humidity at bay once again, but overall, it's not a bad start to our Friday. Lots of sunshine out there right now, but we are watching for increasing cloud cover into the afternoon as the system brings rain across southern Ontario. The downtown core of the GTA likely to stay dry, but if you live further north or east, you might see some spotty showers. We're looking at a frost advisory along that eastern shoreline of Lake Huron as we see temperatures drop as we head in towards this evening. Right now, we're in the upper teens, low 20s, and as we head in towards kind of the afternoon, we warm up ever so slightly. Right now, sitting at 20 degrees apiece, and we're holding on pretty steady as we head through the rest of our day. Coming up, your full forecast right now. Back over to Michelle.
Thank you, Jess. A public town hall was held at City Hall last night to discuss Toronto's action plan to confront anti-Black racism. The town hall is the latest step in the process to develop a 10-year strategy to address the problem. Public consultations have been underway since April to find out what issues the strategy needs to address.
And we sort of encapsulated it in 10 areas, which we think are the priority areas that Black communities want us to address. Are we correct in what we've prioritized?
The public feedback received will be considered in the renewed action plan before it is presented to council. Now to a snapshot of the homelessness crisis in our city. An encampment in South Etobicoke, one of many that has popped up in Toronto.
Those who call it home say there's nowhere else to go, but people who live nearby say it's having a negative impact on their neighborhood. Ron, Robert, and Wayne are all in their late 60s. All three men are unhoused. Ron and Robert live in this broken-down car. Wayne lives in the car beside them.
Help me. I'm on pension, but somebody should help me. I'm all by myself. I got sisters. They're all Calgary, so. My father just died. I just lost two, drowned it back home. It's not easy on me.
They are part of a group of a dozen people living in a makeshift encampment in the parking lot of this community health care center in South Etobicoke. They've been here since last March. They're desperate for a shelter bed, but they've been told there is no shelter spaces available.
I ended up here over a year ago. I got evicted from my apartment because I couldn't pay the rent anymore.
Meanwhile, neighbors are expressing frustration. Rita Keynes has lived here 27 years. She's witnessed people overdosing, needles on the sidewalk, theft of personal property, and deplorable living conditions.
They are defecating in the parking lot, which is attracting rats, lots of rats. If you come here at nighttime and just stand in the parking lot for a few minutes, you will see them.
Other neighbors who didn't want to be identified say it's time for the city to do something.
I sympathize with them. They're going through difficult times, and this is not a dignified solution. They need to have some sort of housing solution.
Over there, you will smell it.
Cadone Dias is the executive director of LAMP, where the encampment is located. She says their mandate is to help vulnerable people, but she says this can't go on and a solution is needed.
The situation we're dealing with here with an encampment in our parking lot is a difficult one to navigate. We do need a solution. The folks living in our parking lot in tents or in cars need a place to be indoors.
Meanwhile, Ron, Robert, and Wayne rely on charity groups that drop off food and warm clothing. But they're worried it won't be enough to survive the coming winter months. We turn to new details about the plans to redevelop Ontario Place.
Crews were on site today clearing trees from the once treasured tourist attraction. It comes as we learn more about the deal struck by the province to build a spa on the property. CTV's John Woodward has the details.
From the air, you can see the machines at work chopping trees, then mulching them on the spot.
It's absolutely devastating what's happening down there. They're destroying those 850 trees on the West Island.
That's really sad. My grandkids have climbed those trees, and I've spent many, many evenings watching the sunset.
The trees being taken down amid a revitalization project on Ontario Place, one that would replace the storied peninsula with an upgraded concert venue, the controversial new Ontario Science Centre, and a spa built by Austrian company Therme.
No part of Ontario Place will be a casino, a shopping mall, or a condominium.
The province had refused to release the Therme lease until today. The lease says Therme is expected to pay about $1.95 million a year, 3.5% of the assessed land value in 2032. That would soon rise, with a performance payout expected to be $2.07 million. The province says they would pay $1.1 billion in rent over the 95-year life of the contract and $855 million in maintenance payments. The province committed in the contract to a 1,200-space parking lot, now says it will be building a 2,500-space parking lot. If it doesn't, the contract says the government will pay $5 a space per day, working out to about $2.2 million a year. An amount so high, it's higher than the rent. For some of this contract, it appears that Therme would get money from the province for occupying Ontario Place.
This seems to us like a great deal for Therme, but not for Ontario.
The province stresses in the deal the land remains public and Therme must be transparent with its books. Revelations about the contract coming as the trees come down.
John Woodward, CTV News.
Canadian auto parts billionaire Frank Stronach is facing new sexual assault charges after more women have come forward to police.
And as the list of allegations grows, so do the implications for Magna International, the company he founded. CTV's Judy Trin reports.
Peel police have laid more charges against Frank Stronach. 3 more women have come forward with new sexual assault allegations after CTV News broadcast this story about Lee. She's a former employee who says the billionaire raped her.
I needed to come forward, that he needed to be stopped.
The list of Stronach's alleged victims has grown to 13. He faces 18 charges, including rape, sexual assault, attempted sexual assault, and unlawful confinement. Lee worked at Stronach's private stables. We don't know if the other women were also employees or where they were allegedly assaulted. The locations are listed as Toronto, Aurora, and Gormley. The complaints date back to 1977. If the assaults occurred on company property or if management knew, Stronach's corporation could be held liable.
When a board becomes aware of serious allegations, or even allegations where there might be smoke but not fire, it's incumbent on a board to take further action and to stand up against wrongdoing, which could, in all of its forms.
The company Stronach founded, Magna International, says that since the allegations surfaced, it has hired 2 law firms to investigate past records. It has found 1 harassment complaint that was previously settled. In a statement, Magna says it's committed to fostering workplaces which are safe, where everyone feels respected, valued, and protected. It says it has a zero-tolerance policy related to sexual harassment and misconduct.
Stronach relinquished control of Magna in 2010 and stepped down as its chairman in 2012. But most of the allegations he faces occurred while he was still head of the company. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
Meanwhile, former fashion mogul Peter Nygard is seeking bail as he appeals his sexual assault convictions and sentence in Toronto. The 83-year-old received an 11-year prison sentence last month after being convicted of 4 counts of sexual assault. The Ontario Court of Appeal says a motion to grant bail pending the appeal was heard yesterday, but the judge's decision has yet to be released. Nygard's lawyers claim the sentence is excessive and the trial judge made several errors.
The Supreme Court of Canada has rejected a challenge to air passenger protection rules implemented by Ottawa 5 years ago. The International Air Transportation Association, Air Canada, Porter Airlines, and several foreign carriers challenged regulations which ask airlines to provide passengers certain free services and reasons for flight delays or cancellations. The rules only go into effect if the disruption is within the airline's control. The decision from Canada's top court to uphold current regulations was unanimous.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is in Paris to take part in the Francophonie Summit hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron. Matters like artificial intelligence are on the agenda today, and leaders will hold sessions on the challenges for French-speaking citizens in the digital age this afternoon. Quebec Premier François Legault is also attending with hopes of strengthening ties between his province and French businesses. The widening conflict in the Middle East is also expected to be a key topic of discussion.
Speaking of the Middle East, Israel's military has warned people to evacuate more communities in southern Lebanon, possibly signaling a widening of this week's ground operation. Israeli forces say they struck 200 Hezbollah targets in a series of strikes that continued overnight. One of the airstrikes cut a major road linking Lebanon with Syria, forcing people to travel on foot. Tens of thousands have used a key crossing there in recent weeks to escape the fighting. Retired Major General Dennis Thompson says the situation in Lebanon is dramatically different than the one the world has seen unfolding in Gaza after Hamas's October 7th attacks on Israel.
If you look at the southern part of Lebanon, south of the Litani River, it's 4 times larger than the Gaza Strip, and it's not as much of a built-up urban area as the Gaza Strip is. And if you're going to evacuate people north of the Litani River, that means that you can send them into parts of Lebanon that you have no intention of clearing at any time in the near future.
This comes as Ottawa continues to urge Canadians in Lebanon to take advantage of flights that have seats reserved for them to flee while they can.
At this point, not all seats are all taken by Canadians.
Jolie says the government has scheduled more flights for today, Saturday, and Sunday. Some 45,000 Canadians are believed to currently be in Lebanon.
Meanwhile, in Iran today, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei led Friday prayers in Tehran, the first time he's done that in several years. During his speech, Khamenei called his country's direct missile attack on Israel this week legal and legitimate, and warned Iran won't hesitate in confronting Israel should it respond.
Palestinian health officials say at least 18 Palestinians were killed in an Israeli airstrike on a refugee camp in the occupied West Bank. The Israeli military says it killed the head of the Hamas militant group in the city of Tulkarm in the strike.
And in Israel, a rocket fired from Lebanon struck a vehicle repair shop in a northern town. The Israeli military says the militant group Hezbollah fired at least 22 rockets into Israel. There are no injuries reported.
At least 215 people have now died from the damage caused by Hurricane Helene, making it the deadliest mainland U.S. storm since Hurricane Katrina.
It's absolute devastation. Even just this valley through here is decimated.
Rescue operations are continuing with hundreds still unaccounted for. More than a week since the storm made landfall, some communities remain isolated and hundreds of thousands are without power. In hard-hit North Carolina, private helicopter companies are stepping up, bringing in much-needed supplies to small mountain communities cut off by devastating flood damage. U.S. President Joe Biden visited hard-hit parts of Georgia and Florida on Thursday.
Our job is to help as many people as we can, as many as we can. And also, by the way, when you do that, I hope we begin to break down this rabid partisanship that exists. I mean that sincerely. There's no rationale for it. There's no rationale for it. And so it doesn't matter who we help, it's who's needed help. And look, we're going to help as many people as we can. That's why days before the storm hit, I pre-positioned extensive resources on the ground throughout the Southeast, extensively.
And with the confirmed death toll now surpassing 200, Biden suggested he'd like Congress to reconvene to consider an aid package for affected areas. Right now, that's not set to happen until after the November 5th election.
The price of gas ticked up overnight and will jump even higher tomorrow. The conflict involving oil-rich Iran is being blamed for the hike in oil prices. We saw a 1 penny increase overnight. And analyst Dan McTagg with Canadians for Affordable Energy says the price at the pumps will increase another 5 cents tomorrow. That will take the average price in southern Ontario to $1.53.9 a litre.
The city's all-night contemporary art festival is back for another year. Nuit Blanche runs tomorrow from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. The event transforms Toronto's public spaces into landscapes and animates cultural sites throughout the city. This year's theme is Bridging Distance, which organizers say invites audiences to explore ways in which they experience and perceive distance through 3 exhibitions. There are more than 80 works by local, national, and international artists, as well as a series of talks, tours, and workshops.
The TTC says subway service on lines 1 and 2 will operate all night, with trains arriving every 15 minutes. Several bus and streetcar routes will have extra service, including the 903 Kennedy Station Scarborough Express, 44 Kipling South Express, 501 Queen, 504 King, and 511 Bathurst. Diversions will also be in place on the 65-365 Parliament route, 114 Queens Quay East, 509 Harbourfront, and 510 Spadina, because of Nuit Blanche activities.
And if you're planning to take the GO train this weekend, there are some service changes to keep in mind. Lakeshore East trains will stop running this evening and all through Saturday and Sunday. Replacement buses will run, but only to stations outside the TTC service area. Stouffville line trains won't run to Union Station and will instead operate hourly from Kennedy GO. Jess.
A pretty solid end to the work and school week. Lots of sunshine to start the day, but we will see increasing cloud as we head into the afternoon and evening. But temperature-wise, we're still holding on just above that seasonal mark as we wrap up the week. Sitting around 21 this afternoon, no real humidex to contend with thanks to a more northerly flow to the wind, northeasterly becoming northwesterly later on. In that sunset time, 6:52 p.m. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast as we step into the weekend, whether you're staying in town, heading out of town. We have all those details coming up.
Well, how about that? Friday has arrived. Look at the sky. It's beautiful. The temperature's nice. There's so much to like. We've gotten a lot of sun this week.
Yeah, and it feels like this warm weather is just still holding on, which is great.
We're holding on to this above seasonal trend that we really started the fall season with. I know a lot of folks are still playing sports outside. They're still doing tons of things in the outdoors. Now we have fall fairs and all these different things that pop up. The forecast this weekend, pretty agreeable for most of it, but we are looking at some active weather on our Sunday. So if you do have plans on Sunday, rain gear a good idea. But regardless, temperature-wise, it stays super nice out there. So if you do want to get out and get active this weekend or just kind of wander around the city or wander around your neighborhood, forecast-wise, it's pretty nice. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm. Injury lawyers, you don't pay unless they win. Now, a little cloud cover early on, but we see that sun sort of peeking out here and there. But it's short-lived as we watch a bit of a system push in this afternoon. Not set to bring anything super intense for the GTA, but if you're a little further east, a little further north, you will see some spotty shower activity. For the downtown core, for the Greater Toronto area, it follows more as cloud cover. But temperature-wise, it's still pretty decent. We're sitting at 20 degrees right now. Our friends up in Moosonee, it's just 7. Peawanuck sitting at 5, through Timmins at 12, Ottawa 19, Windsor at 20. So we're tiptoeing into that time of year where things are cooling down. This afternoon, we'll sit around 21. We're still well above seasonal. We should be at about 16, but thanks to a more northerly flow to the wind, we don't really have a humidex to contend with, so that 21 actually feels like 21. And everybody kind of in that upper teen, low 20 range. Into this evening, it's a little cooler, a little closer to seasonal. We'll sit at 9. We should be at 7. Our friends in Bancroft just at 2, through Goderich at 3. And we do have some frost advisories in place. We're getting into that time of year where it's a little chilly in the evening through Hanover. They're looking at some chillier temperatures as we head in towards our evening. We're looking at a few weak lows making their way through. That's where the chance of active weather comes through. And that blue and red line, a stationary front, kind of hangs out with us for a little bit before it moves its way a little bit further south and east. Timing everything out to show you what all that means, that's cloud cover and the chance of rain. So the chance of rain exists for the GTA because it's kind of in the vicinity, but it really doesn't come close to the downtown core. It's a little bit further east of the city. And then as we head through the rest of our evening, a lot of that pushes out. High pressure returns, at least for a day. So that makes a really sunny day as we get into our Saturday. So kicking off the weekend, it's super nice if you do have any outdoor plans. As we step through our Saturday evening, again, it's not too bad. Getting into Sunday, we watch for another line of showers. This system right now is cooking up in the prairies out through Saskatchewan. It will eventually kind of invigorate over Hudson Bay and then bring its way down towards us. And we have more organized showers coming in play for our Sunday afternoon. Not an all-day rain affair, so if you do have plans in the evening, it'll still be super nice. In the morning, super nice. It's just that midday shower activity. We do dip down temperature-wise to your Saturday and Sunday. Again, those showers Sunday are midday. They push out, and then as we step in towards next week, we're looking at a much more seasonal forecast. So not cold by any stretch, but we are starting to see that trend towards more traditional fall weather. Michelle, Nathan, I'll send things back over to you.
Speaking of that, Jess, as the weather starts to cool, I hate to say it, but the city is closing its curbside patios.
Mayor Olivia Chow is on hand to officially wrap up the city's CafeTO program. And CTV's Beth McDonnell is live in the Riverdale area with more. Beth.
Nathan, the City of Toronto is winding down the CafeTO program, and it's touting how successful it's been this year, building on previous years. This year, in 2024, there were 304 establishments taking part. More than 60 of those were new. Now, there's been several problems in the past with the CafeTO program, problems with the application, complaints about whether these patios were accessible. And Mayor Chow, at the beginning of the season, said she was going to work on this and fix it. So as of this year, they say in total, across the city, there were over 1,400 places to dine outdoors. But the success of all of this didn't come without questions. There were some very pointed questions about whether CafeTO contributed to congestion. And there were also questions about whether it's taking up vital parking spots. So there's questions about where this program is actually going to go, but the mayor is very proud of what they achieved so far.
All the business improvement area said, Mayor Chow, fix this. And, well, we fixed it. Working with our amazing city staff, the BIAs, the restaurant owners, they gave us concrete examples on what needs to be fixed, and by gosh, we got it done.
Mayor Chow says not every neighborhood has to participate in the CafeTO program, but where it does exist, it's not just good for the restaurants, but it's good for the neighborhoods as a whole. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Michelle, Nathan, back to you.
All right, thank you, Beth. A South Asian dance company is marking a major milestone this weekend.
For 35 years, it has brought people together in the GTA through the power of music and movement. As CTV's Andrea Case reports, to celebrate, a big show is being planned for tomorrow.
The rehearsals are underway. The outfits have been picked. The event, a one-of-a-kind dance and music production featuring an award-winning dance company, a staple in the South Asian community for the past 35 years. Suma Sarish is the artistic director of Sampradaya Dance Creations.
We specialize in creating and producing innovative dance works that are both classical and contemporary.
While the dance companies traveled internationally, they also have a focus right here in the community. They make their art available to those who have been victims of intimate partner violence and others living with mental health. In celebration of this milestone anniversary, they've created a tribute to Indian composer A.R. Rahman. It's called Salam Rahman.
I think we're ready. I think we have a show. Yes, but the jitters are in, but there's also equal amounts of excitement. And it's just been joyful, just the process of coming together in the same room, people from different walks, different backgrounds, just dancing. A.R. Rahman needs no introduction. The man's a musical maverick. He's a genius. He's a two-time Oscar winner, multiple Grammys. He's the man who, he's one of the Indian musicians who really took his music, or took our music, to an international platform in a scale that had not been done before.
30 of the Academy Award and Grammy composer songs will be performed by a host of entertainers.
30 musicians from the symphony, 20 from an Indian music ensemble, really, again, a wonderfully talented ensemble of musicians who've been picked from the GTA. This has been, and 7 singers who are part of the orchestra, and about 47 dancers.
This ambitious undertaking will be performed one night only this Saturday, October 5th, at the Living Arts Center in Mississauga. Tickets are available now. Andrea Case, CTV News.
Still ahead, it's allergy season. Tips on how to deal with reaction to pollen-producing plants coming up after this short break. Bless you. A warning for parents now. A family from the Brantford area is mourning the loss of their child who died of rabies after being exposed to a bat.
While there have been fewer than 30 human cases of rabies in Canada in the past century, those cases can be extremely serious. CTV's Andrew Johnson has the details.
On a September trip to Northern Ontario, health officials say a child woke up to discover a bat in their room. The trip would end in tragedy.
This is extremely rare. This has only happened a handful of times in the history of the country, but that doesn't take away from how sad it is.
The parents checked for any bites or scratches, couldn't see any, so didn't pursue treatment. But the damage had been done.
This is sort of the scariest scenario, is you've got a bat that shows up in a room with a kid, and maybe the kid's too young to accurately report what that interaction might have been, or maybe they were asleep. But the truth is, anytime you have potential contact between wildlife like that and a person, you have to treat it as the worst case scenario. Those scratches or bites can be so small that they're imperceivable, but they can still allow for transmission of a rabies virus.
The child from the Brantford area was later hospitalized and couldn't be saved. Experts say if you get medical help right away, rabies treatments are nearly 100% effective. But once you're starting to feel symptoms, it is almost always too late.
We call it an almost invariably fatal disease. There have been a few individuals that have survived.
And bats, if rabid, unlike dogs, will not appear violent or sick.
What ends up happening is you get a bat that doesn't feel well and starts making dumb mistakes that put it close to people.
This is the first instance of human rabies acquired in Ontario in 57 years. And the first death in Canada since 2019, when a BC man swatted away a bat in a park and also didn't realize he was in trouble in time to save his life. The takeaway: if there's any chance you've come into contact with a bat, get your rabies shots immediately, just in case. Andrew Johnson, CTV News.
As the province prepares to roll out updated COVID-19 vaccines, there's been a slight slowing in the spread of the virus. That's according to the latest figures shared by Public Health Ontario. They cover the week of September 22nd to the 28th. They show that 16% of lab tests for COVID came back positive. That's considered a moderate level after the readings were listed as high for a few weeks. During that period, 776 hospital beds were occupied by patients with the virus, and 7 died of COVID.
Are you one of those people perhaps waiting for the first frost to kill off the pollen-producing plants that cause allergy?
If so, you're not alone. CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan has more on the wrath of ragweed season.
It may not have a lot of greenery, but Lisgar Park is good for allergy sufferer Jordan Shore.
I get a little bit stuffy in the mornings from some ragweed, like dust in general too, just kind of gets me sneezed.
And while this is the time of year for ragweed allergies, Shore actually suffers more in the spring with tree pollens.
It gets my eyes watery and gets my throat itchy.
Dr. Stephanie Liu says the first step is to minimize your exposure to pollens.
Making sure that you keep your doors and your windows closed to keep pollen out. When you're driving, keeping the windows up. When you come inside, washing your hands, washing your face to rinse off the pollen. Nasal rinses to flush out the allergens. Nasal steroid sprays can also help with the nasal symptoms. And then, of course, antihistamines like Reactin can help with the sneezing, the itchy, and nasal symptoms too.
Eye drops can temporarily relieve itchy, watery eyes, and then there's immunotherapy.
Like allergy shots. So there's the shots that you can give, and what it is they give small doses of what you're allergic to. But there's also things called sublingual immunotherapy. So that's when you take it orally.
Experts say the hotter summers mean a longer growing season and more time for the pollens to stay in the air. And they say fungi and molds are also becoming more prevalent as seasonal allergies. So as the weather gets colder and we spend more time indoors, those are the allergens we'll be encountering next. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
When you own a condo, you usually pay maintenance fees every month to cover the cost of running the building.
But if your condo needs major repairs, you could be asked to cough up even more cash in a special assessment. CTV's consumer reporter Pat Vaughan has more.
The owners of this condominium in North York on Wilson Avenue say they were caught off guard to be told the parking garage in their complex has water leaks that may require costly repairs. Condo owner Lee Gingo says he was given a notice from the property management company that said the possible repair may require a $7 million loan to be taken by the condo or a special assessment of $70,000 each for about 100 unit holders.
It makes me very nervous and also stressed, very stressed, because it's like out of nowhere, suddenly the huge debt came in.
It's hard to see from looking at the parking garage that it requires extensive repairs, but engineers have advised the condo board water penetration is causing a serious structural risk. When CTV News reached out to the board, their legal spokesperson said the board members empathize with owners' frustration over the estimated repair costs. However, they cannot let that interfere with their primary duty to keep the property safe. Many condo owners are also concerned because the building is only 7 years old.
No one has $70,000 lying around, so it's very hard for us to even fathom what it is that we have to do.
Some reasons for special assessments in condos include repairing roofs, exterior glass walls, balconies, foundations, and parking garages. In this complex, many owners say they're also worried they're being rushed to make a decision involving such a large amount of money.
A little more transparency, a little more time, a little more options.
Days after we first contacted the condo board, their legal representative said construction deficiency repairs are still required. However, the board will reschedule the vote to a later date to permit owners more time to review the matter and consider their options prior to voting. The owners say more time is primarily what they wanted.
More time to reassess the whole thing. Everyone's just very relieved, and it's really great news for all of us.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
The U.S. gained more than 250,000 jobs in September, far surpassing economists' predictions. This news comes as a port workers' strike south of the border is put on hold.
These are the ones who sacrificed, took the time off, didn't go to work, just said that, we demanded a fair contract.
45,000 employees at ports along the East and Gulf of Mexico coasts returned to work today. This comes after employers offered a 62% pay hike over the next 6 years. The union agreed to extend the current contract into mid-January, while talks continue on other outstanding issues, including the use of automation.
Inflation may have cooled, but competition for deals at the grocery store is heating up.
And more Canadian shoppers are changing their buying habits. CTV's Adrian Gobriel has details on the growing trend.
The appetite for private label products is expanding.
10, 15, 20 years ago, Canadians saw private labels as being cheap products.
But not anymore. From President's Choice to Compliments to Kirkland, just to name a few, private label offerings make up roughly 19% of all groceries now purchased in Canada, according to the Agri-Food Analytics Lab at Dalhousie University.
This is the legacy of the food inflation storm that we just experienced over the last couple of years. We've just trained Canadians to become incredibly frugal.
And grocers are taking notice. In a statement, Metro says it's working on a comprehensive rebranding of its Irresistible brand to increase its visibility. One of the country's largest grocers, Loblaws, has launched a test pilot, opening 3 of these no-name stores they claim can help customers save up to 20%. Inside, you'll find only a handful of aisles, minimal staff, produce, and frozen items. There's also no dairy products or meat counter.
As a company, we listened to our customers, and our customers said, we want cheaper grocery prices. So we said, let's have no name, bring it to the customers in a store.
You went in, you walked around.
I did, yes.
Your thoughts?
Yes, it does seem to have lower prices.
They only have a limited number of products.
But it's your staples. I guess it's a quick go-to. It's a step up from the dollar store. It's more variety.
For now, Loblaws says it's taking a test and learn approach to see how customers react and if they come back. As for private brand products, experts say we can expect to see more on shelves across the country. Adrian Gobriel, CTV News, St. Catharines, Ontario.
Coming up today is Toronto Fire Chief Matthew Pegg's last day on the job. We have more on his ceremonial send-off coming up after the break.
Today is Toronto Fire Chief Matthew Pegg's last day on the job, the chief officially relinquishing command after decades of service.
Dignitaries and first responders from across the city gathered for a formal send-off and celebration. The sound of bagpipes rang out at Toronto Fire headquarters to mark Chief Matthew Pegg's retirement after 32 years of service, including 8 in the top job. Torontonians came to know Pegg not only from his work as fire chief, but also as the city's COVID-19 incident commander during the pandemic. Chief Pegg reflected on the important role firefighters play each and every day in Toronto.
I don't think there is anything more special or more rewarding than being in a position where you have the opportunity to make the very worst moments of someone's life a little bit better. And that is literally what the men and women who are Toronto Fire Services have the privilege and opportunity to do, of course, alongside our paramedics and police colleagues. And it is, I think it's second to none. It's fantastic.
Deputy Fire Chief Larry Coco will take over as interim chief effective today. Happy retirement,
yeah, we
Chief
wish him
Pegg.
all the best. We're going to miss him. He did a great job.
It's a partnership, and yeah, a lot. We talked a lot over the years.
Yeah.
Weather-wise, nice day to be going off into the sunset,
Right,
into retirement.
What an accomplishment, what a milestone. And a beautiful day for anyone kind of spending time outside today. It is going to stay a little cooler just thanks to the wind direction, but we're still holding on above seasonal as we wrap up the work and school week for so many. Not much in the satellite radar picture right now, but there's a weak system coming through set to bring some showers a little bit further east of the city a little more consistently. As we head through the afternoon, we warm up a little bit right now, sitting at 20 degrees, 20 through Windsor as well, 19 in Ottawa. If you're heading up to the cottage to close things up or just to spend some time, a sunnier Saturday, some midday showers on Sunday. But overall, as we step into this first weekend of October, it's not too bad.
All right. Thank you, Jess. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and the whole team here at CTV News, have a wonderful afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great afternoon.